One. Hello, everybody. This is Tyler, Preston 20. I'm here again with Faye, the Most Gracious, from England, and we're going to talk about the Dark Knight trilogy. How are you doing?
Hi, so good to be back on here so soon.
Yeah, this is the third time I talked to you on my channel so far.
Yeah, I was like after the last one where we talked about the new Joker movie, um, and I had said that I didn't watch the Dark Knight trilogy. You'd convinced me to watch it because my best friend, she's a big DC fan. She's not the best judge of movies, but she's a big DC fan. She's been trying to get me to watch these movies for a long time, and you kind of got me to watch them. And after I finished watching them, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to give a full review, but instead of making like a 2000 like length Twitter thread, I'm just gonna talk about it with you because I feel like that would be a good follow up from the last stream. Um,
Right,
so
like I said before we went live, I saw these movies when they came out. I saw the Dark. No, well, sorry, I messed it up right now. It was the Batman Begins in 2005. Then I saw the Dark Knight in 2008, and then I saw the Dark Knight Rises in 2012. So I saw all of these movies when they came out. However, in preparation for this live stream, I decided to rewatch it on yesterday and the day before yesterday, so I can actually refresh my mind about these movies. So.
yeah. And just to preface this, like I understand that these movies have aged quite a bit by now. I understand that. I understand the first one came out in like 2004, 2005. So I get that. And I'm going to take that into consideration while I'm reviewing it and essentially roasting it because I found a lot of things that I didn't like about it. And I also understand why it's like the best, like in terms of DC movie quality, it's one of the best that there is. I get that because DC has had a lot of misses. I think that before this, my favorite like DC movie, and I say favorite very loosely because in my opinion it was the only good one that I had seen, was was Wonder Woman. I really enjoyed Wonder Woman, but I think that what's really bringing DC down, like as a movie making company, is that they need to raise their age ratings. Like I couldn't believe that Batman, because I used to watch the cartoons as a kid. I used to watch all the Batman cartoons as a kid, and Batman has a lot of content that just isn't kid friendly. Like a lot of the villains are very very messed up. A lot of the characters are quite out there. Like if you're gonna make a movie about these characters, like especially if we're talking about DC characters, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, like all of those characters. First of all, you need to not rush it and pack so much in one movie, which is something that I had a problem with these movies. And also, you need to raise the age rating because Batman is just not like Gotham as a city is not a kid-friendly city like at all. Um, so that's just what I wanted to preface with.
Okay, so what was like the ratings for the movies when they came out in your country?
So they were 12A. All of them were 12A, which is like PG-13 in the US. It's essentially a kid movie, but you bring an adult with you.
Right. And what about for the Joker?
The Joker was also rated a 12A, I think. No, the
Wait, the
Joker
what?
was a
The
15.
Joker?
No, the Joker was a 15. I've corrected that. The Joker was a 15 because I remember the first time I went to see it, for whatever reason, I've never been ID'd at a cinema before, but they ID'd me. So the Joker was a 15, but every other, like even a lot of Marvel movies are 12A, and I don't really understand. I feel like they'd be way better movies if they were just like 15s. I guess
Hmm.
they wouldn't get the Disney pass of being like, oh yeah, kids can see this movie, but I think that the movie quality overall would be better. Um,
Yeah, I think maybe they're trying to have some sort of like middle ground to, appeal for the kids, but also appeal to the adults. Like it's dark, but not too dark in a sense. Like,
I want it to
but
be
but
dark.
but like for the case of the Batman movies, they're definitely way more darker, way
Yeah,
way more darker than like
like
Marvel.
I can. Like I was, because I'm just a really annoying person to see a film with. Like I'm sitting there and I'm like visual, especially if it's not in the cinema. In the cinema, I'll keep my mouth shut because there's like a group of people watching a movie and I don't want to be rude. But if I'm watching a movie with one other person who's already seen the movie, I'm gonna be pausing it every 5 minutes and being like, they could have done this way better by doing this. And then she's like, okay, can you just shut up and watch the movie? Like, stop.
I guess like, the culture of like mystery science theater has applied to the everyday folk now. Like you just
Well,
keep pausing
I'm
and making
just
fun of
like,
it. Yeah.
I think with me, because I went in thinking I'm going to be so critical about this movie, I didn't give it a good chance, which is unfair. And I'm freely admitting that I'm being unfair with this movie because I went in thinking I'm not going to like this movie. And I will admit that there were parts that I did like. I love Christian Bale as an actor, even if he's a dick in real life. I do love Christian Bale as an actor. And I love Liam Neeson, who was in the first movie. Liam Neeson is like one of my top favorite
He's
actors.
also in the
Just
third movie too.
yeah, he was in the third movie as well, but mainly in the first one.
Right.
Heath Ledger was in it, but I really do feel that we can get into that. But I feel like Heath Ledger carried the second movie.
I
Um,
agree. I think that's why many people love the second movie so much. It's because of his performance as a Joker. Because in the past, when the movies first came out, like people were really skeptical about how he would probably carry the role for the Joker. But when
yeah,
people saw it for the first time, they were surprised about how good he was.
yeah, and I think the reason for that was that Heath Ledger's like he was because he passed away soon after that movie, right?
Yeah.
Um, Heath Ledger was a pretty boy, so I think people's minds would immediately be like, oh, he's going to take us out of the movie, which ironically is how I felt about Anne Hathaway being in the movies. She just took me out of the movie every single time I saw her. I was like, that's just Princess Diaries woman. Like I can't. I get the same feeling anytime I see the Harry Potter kids in other movies. Like I can't erase the fact that they are someone else in a different
Or wait,
movie.
like there was like what was it? Daniel Radcliffe. He was in another movie I saw a trailer
Radcliffe,
for.
yeah.
Yeah, he was what was it? Some sort of white supremacist movie or something. I couldn't believe it's the same person.
Yeah, I mean, Beauty and the Beast, the live remake, I could not. I feel like Emma Watson ruined that movie for me. Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite Disney movies. I was not excited about watching the live action because I think remakes are just a terrible idea in general. If something is good, you don't need to fix it. Just stop. But I gave it a chance because Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite Disney movies, and now that movie is just eternally ruined for me because I cannot erase the fact that Emma Watson is Hermione Granger. She just is. In my brain, she is.
It seems as though that Disney is just remaking everything nowadays. They remade, of course, The Beauty and the Beast. They remade The Lion
Yeah.
King. Just any of those animated properties they have. They're gonna have a new Mulan coming out next year too.
Yeah, that is the only movie that I am excited to see a remake of because I feel like the war aspect of, and I love war movies. I feel the war aspect of it could be interesting. But the point I was trying to make is I think the skepticism with Heath Ledger was that I think people thought that he was going to take them out of the movie, but his performance was amazing, and I can't even remember the name of the movie, the second Dark Knight movie.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah, it's called The Dark Knight, right?
Yes.
Sorry. Um, that's going to be a theme. I'm really bad at names.
It's no biggie.
So with the first movie, so my biggest question with Batman Begins was why does Gotham look like it's a very steampunk era? Like it doesn't look like because I know that Gotham as a city, it's a fictional city, right? But it's meant to be based off of like Chicago or New York. Like that is what I thought Gotham was supposed to be. But in Batman Begins, there's like a train system that flies over everyone. Like there's slum area, like it reminded me of like this dystopian universe, like very very steampunk. Like the dark matched it, but I didn't get like the train networks, like all of that stuff I didn't understand. And then in the second and third movie, like the whole city got a glow up, like it was a completely different city. Like I don't know why they, if they were going to go for one thing, I don't know why they just decided to change it, or
So,
why they didn't
so
just
basically,
the
you think
normal.
it's like a lack of consistency for the movies. It's just how Gotham looks. Yeah.
Yeah, that really, because I was trying to focus on the, here I am trying to focus on the plot line, but I can't get past the fact that there aren't just train lines like screaming over people. Like it was a weird thing. Like it was a weird choice, but I was like living with it in the first movie. I was like, okay, this is the world. Gotham is a fictional city. You know, this is their interpretation of Gotham. That's fine. But then in the second movie, I was just like, this is a different city. Like, did they just uproot everything and just start again? That's what it felt like in terms of like a setting kind of thing. That's what it felt like. I also felt as though I could have done without watching the first movie. Like I felt like the first movie was really pointless, and
I
a
mean,
lot of people had a
I
problem.
I don't think it's pointless because what happens in the first movie is that what happens is Batman trains to become Batman. He goes to the League of Shadows. He, of course, fights against the main villain, which is like
Yeah,
Liam Neeson's character. And also by the third movie, they make references to the first movie. And also,
yeah,
the first movie also set up the characters like for Morgan Freeman and, of course, for Batman and for Alfred. And so you get to see like the universe being introduced with the first movie because you get to know why Batman's afraid of bats, why he has the gadgets. And so that's why when you go to the second movie, it kind of, makes sense that they already have the characters and the gadgets. And also by the third movie, you get to know how basically, what was it?
with Bane
Yeah,
and
Bane
all of
and
that.
also that girl, they were related to that League of Shadows. And so it
Yeah.
still connects in a way.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I feel like a lot of people had a problem with me saying that the first movie was pointless. And the reason I say the reason I said that is because I feel as though like the Batman origin story has been done quite a few times in animation. It's been done quite a few times in actual movies, like live action movies before. Like I feel like everyone is more or less acquainted with the character Batman. Um, so with, for example, to compare it,
If you were to have it your way, you would just have it with the Dark Knight and then move forward.
I think I would have had parts of Batman Begins, so like with
Okay.
Morgan Freeman's character, with Alfred, with like little flashes of his origin story. Um, but I would have put it, I would have gone with just the Dark Knight, yeah. So to
Mhm.
compare it to like the Marvel universe, which is an unfair comparison, I know, but to compare it to like Spider-Man, Spider-Man's been done a bunch of times by Marvel and Sony. With Homecoming, they didn't really do an origin story for Spider-Man. They just kind of jumped into Spider-Man.
Yeah, like
Um,
basically what
and I,
happened was that the prior Spider-Man movies did it at least two times. Like the first Spider-Man movie from 2002 already had like Uncle Ben's death. Then the
yeah,
Amazing Spider-Man had Uncle Ben's death, and so there's no reason to say it again and again and again. So
exactly. So because it's been done before, we're acquainted with the kind of character that Spider-Man is. And I got it. I understand who Batman is, but I kind of get it as well why you would want to do an origin story for people who didn't know who Batman was. But because this is like such a celebrated character in comic books and in popular culture, I just like I didn't get why it was necessary. Like even the League of Shadows thing, like the amount of time, and the other thing was the reason why the movies are so long is because there's so much in there that can just be thrown out. Like a lot of the chase scenes are way too long. Like it takes out the element of surprise if you put that much of the chase scene in. Like I'm not a movie maker. I'm just a critic. I'm just saying.
yeah, but
Um,
which chase scenes are you referring to? Are you talking about the ones in the Dark Knight or
so the chase scenes
okay?
in the dark, so in all of the movies,
Okay.
they exist throughout the movies. So there'll be a chase scene where there's two, so there'll be police cars, there'll be the villain, and then there'll be Batman, right?
Yeah.
So you'll cut to each of them. Like I don't understand why you can't just do Batman, and then you have the chase scene between the police cars and the villain, and then at the end you throw in Batman as a surprise. Like he saves the day. Like I feel like that's a good formula. I don't know why they had to keep cutting to each of them. We got the point. They're chasing. That's
I
you
mean,
know what
for
I'm
the
saying?
yeah, like for the case of the Dark Knight, what happened was that it was Two-Face. He was in that vehicle, and they were chasing after him. And then the Joker was trying to fire like the bazooka against him, and then the truck flipped over, and then of course Batman came out of
Well, see,
nowhere. Yeah.
I feel as though that scene was really, really well done. I enjoyed that scene. Um, because it was just like a fun surprise. It didn't need to make sense. It's a superhero movie.
Right.
um, and I mean, to talk about sense, the one thing that bothered me about the first movie, about Batman Begins, is how he just disappears. Like he's a huge guy. Like I get that he's meant to be sneaky. Like there was this one scene where he's in like a bank vault. Like
Mhm.
first of all, how did he get there? Like all of the walls are white or silver. How did he get in without anyone noticing? And then he just disappeared. There's no way to hide. Like there's no windows. Like there's only one exit. Um,
There
it's
was
just
also this one scene in The Dark Knight Rises where Batman finally gets out of prison from Bane, and then
yeah,
he just goes to, what was it, Gotham, but there's no explanation of how he got there.
yeah.
It's just there.
There's and then there's the scene of him climbing out the prison thing, right? The hole in the ground.
Yeah.
The prison with the sky thing. I don't know what it was called, but the prison where he had to climb out, and there's no like telling where that is in the world. Like it just seems like really quick cuts to this place and then that place. Um,
I guess my guess would be the Middle East or something. I don't know.
no, but how did he get? How did Bane take him there so quickly, and then how
Yeah.
did he get back so quickly?
It's
It
movie
just
magic.
is movie magic. Like some parts make perfect sense, and then other parts they don't make sense at all. I mean, I'm not going to critique that too heavily. It is a superhero movie, and it is DC, so we have to take away some points just for that.
Okay.
We have to be easy on DC because it is DC. It is, like I said, I understand why these movies are celebrated as like the best DC movies because they are. They are the best DC movies. But
Yeah, like right
then
before,
again,
before the trilogy of The Dark Knight, it was like these really bad Batman movies for the longest time. But after
yeah,
like Batman 1989, I believe, there was like really bad sequels. They had Batman Returns, then Batman Forever, then Batman and Robin, which is like the worst
oh
Batman.
god,
Oh my God, it's terrible. So when people saw like these movies for the first time, when they first came out, they were like, "Gosh, shit," for many people.
it was a huge improvement from that. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. 100% on board with you. So much better than those movies. Um, but what I will say, the other thing was that I really felt as though the characters were not very developed. Like you have a lot of characters, and they're very eccentric characters. In the first movie, you have Ra's al Ghul, you have Batman. In the second movie, you have the Joker, you have Two Face, you have Batman, and you have some other side characters. You have Alfred, you have Morgan Freeman, you have the girl that he likes and dies. I can't remember her name.
Rachel.
Um, huh?
Her name is Rachel.
Okay, so Rachel. And then in the third movie, you have Batman, you have Bane, you have the Robin character, you have Alfred, you have Morgan Freeman, you have the lady who's the daughter of Ra's al Ghul. You have like a lot of characters. You have a lot of characters, and they're all very interesting characters. But I felt as even Batman, the title character, I really felt as though his character wasn't developed. Like I understand who Batman is, but I don't really know too much about him, even though I've been watching him for like 6 hours. I don't know who the Bat.
Well, what I
Um,
got from watching the movies again was that Batman just when he was a kid, he of course the parents died and stuff. Then he
yeah,
became like, of course, he got the millionaire stuff, and so he also, donates to these causes that he believes will actually help Gotham. I also got that basically, as the second movie was over, he got more crippled. He became, of course, with the cane and stuff, and he started
yeah,
to try to, develop to get stronger to fight against Bane. So there is some sort of character
yeah.
development.
There's definitely a development. By the second movie, I really felt like there wasn't much to him. One of the reasons why a lot of people told me that the third movie's a waste, and I actually really enjoyed the third movie.
Honestly,
It
like when I first saw this third movie, when it first came out to the theater, I also didn't like it that much. But when I rewatched it, like for the first time in years, I actually thought it was better than I remembered.
Well, I think that a lot of the disappointment came with the fact that there wasn't going to be a Joker in the movie.
Right, I think so
Um,
too.
but like if I were to rate the movies on which ones I liked the most, it would be the second one, the third one, and then the first one. The first one, I feel like you could just cut most of it out, and you'd still have a good
It's
first
kind of
movie.
funny because I would think, like, for me, the best movies in the trilogy are just The Dark Knight for number one. Number two would be Batman Begins, and number three would be The Dark Knight Rises, for me at least. But they're all really
Well,
good to me.
I think The Dark Knight Rises actually did a really, really good job of developing it to an extent, because I still don't think it was done exceptionally well. But I do think that Batman's character was developed a lot more because he had to fight to, regain his character, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like,
basically he had like this fight against Bane. He broke his back, and then he had to train to get actually healed, and then try to jump over that prison many times before he finally got it. So it felt like he was much more developed
yeah,
over time in that
there was
movie.
struggle involved, and there was a lot of like internal questioning. He seemed like interested in Catwoman, which was another interesting thing. Like, he didn't seem so. And Batman isn't meant to be a black and white character. Batman is very much an anti-hero, in my opinion. Anyway, he's meant to be like this character that's constantly questioning things. And for the first two movies, I really felt like he was a very clean cut character, like a very cookie cutter superhero, which I
Yeah, but
never
his
saw
third movie
Batman
is
as.
much more flawed.
Yeah, in the third movie, and in the comic books, he's way more like there's a lot more questioning going on. He has way more regrets. Like he's constantly, questioning himself. And I saw some of that in the third movie, which is why I really appreciated that in the third movie. But in the first movie, there wasn't a lot of that, except in the beginning, where he tried to kill the guy who killed his parents, and that was
Mhm.
the like level of character development that I actually saw in the first movie. And the rest of it is just him fighting crime. Like it's a lot of him doing things and not so much thinking about things. And as
Yeah,
someone who,
prior to him fighting against crime, what happened was that when he was at the League of Shadows, he basically had some sort of standard, some sort of code that he would not kill people no matter what. They
yeah,
basically asked him to execute this guy, and he said, "No, I am not an executioner." So you can
yeah,
also
but then
see,
he kills like so many people in the runaway of that of that sequence.
yeah,
So it kind of defeats the point. But
yeah.
something I will say is that I love broody characters. Brooding characters are like my spirit animal. Like my favorite superhero of all time is Wolverine, and he's the broodiest of broody superheroes. I think. Anyway, I love the characters that I can relate to who are constantly conflicted internally because I relate to that a lot. They have that internal conflict. They're alcoholics. They smoke a lot. They're very negative. Like that is my superhero. um, so like and for me, the reflection of Batman when I saw like the comparisons to Gotham, like the variety of villains, and in the first two movies, how very clean cut he was. He reminded me a lot of Spider-Man, which is something. And I was telling my friend this, like, is Batman meant to be a version of Spider-Man? Because I never got that from the cartoons. He always seemed a lot more conflicted in the cartoons and in the animations. Like
I
he
guess it kind
felt
of
very,
depends on
very.
I guess it kind of depends on the interpretation of the character. Like I guess there are some people who want to make him much more darker, much more greedier. I guess there are some people who want to make him like Spider-Man. I guess it all depends on the writer's intention for the character, for the
I mean,
TV shows, movies, or whatever.
it would make sense if they were trying to put it in that direction because I think at the time Spider-Man was probably the competitor when the Batman Begins came out. So it would make sense. Which is something I
I'm
considered.
not sure if it was a competitor. Like the first Spider-Man came out in what was it, 2002, and then the second one came out 2004. So I think
And that
Batman Begins came out 2005.
it came out 2004 as well, I think.
Huh, interesting. I'm not
So
sure
it
if it was
could
a
be.
competitor, really.
I'm just spitballing. But like that's what it felt like to me. Like it didn't feel like this is a brooding, you know, dark hero. Let's call him that. Like a
Dark Hero.
struggling hero.
Okay.
He didn't feel like that. He felt very much like I'm just your friendly neighborhood vigilante. Like that's what it felt like. Um, he's helping the police. He has relationships with them. Like it felt very much like that. The news outlets hate him. Like, like all they needed to do was throw in Jameson into the
Yeah.
mix, like screaming at him, and you would have had Spider-Man. But
Right.
that's what it felt like. And I didn't like that because it didn't allow for a lot of character development. He's a grown man. He's in his 20s, I think he's meant to be in the first movie. um and it just felt very, and this could be down to the 12A rating as well. It just felt more actiony than it was reflective, which is why I like more recent movies like The Joker, which is central to one character and you can really evaluate their psyche from just watching the movie. um
I heard that they're gonna do a reboot for Batman, though I don't think it will have Ben Affleck as the character though.
yeah, I don't think that's a good idea though, because I think they have a good thing going with The Dark Knight, honestly. Unless they make a darker one and they make it like a 15 or an 18, then yeah, I go for it.
That's
Um,
never gonna happen. That's never gonna. I mean, I guess it happened for Joker, but as far as Batman, I don't think
I
they'll
think you
ever do
can.
that.
I think with like characters like Deadpool and Joker, you can get away with it because they're dark characters.
Right.
And Batman is meant to be a dark character as well, but for some reason I think ever since the 90s they've just trying to make him really child friendly, and it's just not working. I think DC, a model for success, starting point would be just raise the age ratings, because it's really, I don't, because I was a DC fan when I was a kid. I used to watch the cartoons, I used to read the comic books, and I don't know how you can make that all child friendly. It's just, to me it doesn't make any sense.
I know for a fact that there was like what was it? A different cut of Deadpool 2 that came out more recently, and they actually tried to tone down the, I guess, the violence and the swearing for like the PG-13 crowd. It was for
Well,
it was a Christmas
the
cut, I
second
think.
one,
Yeah, for
the
the
second
second
one
one.
wasn't the second one wasn't PG-13 though. It was a
Yeah, like for
15.
the original cut, yeah, but they made a cut that was for Christmas.
That's bullshit. Um, Deadpool is perfect as it is, and I hope it never changes. I hope they make 50 more movies of Deadpool because I could watch that shit all the time. Um, Honestly, like I'm ready for a Deadpool Spider-Man collab. Like I'm ready for that.
I know
Um,
that for the case of Disney, if they're gonna do like a Spider-Man and Deadpool collaboration, it's not gonna get higher for rating classifications because they want
no, I think if they were gonna do something like that, they might have to put in a different Spider-Man or call him something else.
to.
But I honestly really like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I think it's a perfect Spider-Man. I think they've found one. They've found the perfect Spider-Man. I originally thought that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was better, but then I rewatched those movies and I really regretted doing that. Because they have not aged well. As a kid, when you watch them, the nostalgia. I watched that movie so many times as a kid. I watched that movie like 50 or 60 times as a kid, and I could not, like, I would have defended Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man tooth and nail. He was the best Spider-Man. But I rewatched it. I think it was last year. I rewatched Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and oh my god, it was painful. I was like, I've just destroyed my entire childhood. I loved these movies. Why did I go back and watch them?
I
um,
mean, for my case, I'm not sure which is my favorite Spider-Man, but when I was a kid watching those movies in this theater, what was it, 2002, and what was it 2002, 2004, and I think the third one came out in 2007. I was
yeah.
actually impressed by them because prior to like those movies, they haven't been like any sort of, to me at least, really good superhero movies that came out prior to those
Yeah,
films.
yeah. Spider-Man was good for its time. I will say
Yeah.
that. X-Men was pretty good as well for its time.
I
The
still
first
think the
one,
second one is the one of the best Spider-Man movies.
the second one.
Yes.
Look, I'm not even gonna lie. I wasn't mad at the third one. I loved the third movie. I thought the third movie was a masterpiece as a kid. Like I loved that movie. Having rewatched it, I understand why that's a problematic opinion. Okay, don't jump down my throat. But when I was a kid, I thought that that was the best of the Spider-Man movies.
I don't know. When I saw the third movie, even though I kind of liked it, I kind of saw that it was kind of flawed. So, but I still liked it.
You know what, in the comic books, the whole symbiote arc, like him having to fight the symbiotes, was just super interesting to me. One of the reasons why I didn't go and watch Venom was because I knew they would fuck up without the Spider-Man.
I don't know. Like when I watched a clip of Venom the other day, I thought it was pretty funny. I guess they were kind of going for the dark comedy angle.
Yeah, it didn't really work though.
Hmm.
I love the symbiotes. I love the different Venoms. I love those characters. So for me, the concept of an alien, taking over your mind and body as a kid was like, oh my god, that's so
That's
cool.
scary,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, like it just blew my mind, like my little tiny child brain, and I still want there to be movies where that is part of the Spider-Man universe. Like the most recent Spider-Man that I watched, Far From Home, I loved that movie. Like I don't know what the general opinion on that movie is, but I
I think
loved that
people love
movie.
it too. It made like $1 billion at the box office.
Yeah, like what I loved about it was that it kept me guessing, which a lot of superhero movies just don't do for me. Like I know what's gonna happen. And this is why I'm a really annoying person to watch movies with, because I'm sitting there guessing what's gonna happen, and I'm usually right. And I don't want to be right. Like I want to be surprised, and that's why I really liked Far From Home. Was that first of all, there was a lot of character development, like Peter Parker questioning his whole Spider-Man thing. Like I loved that front to back. I loved it. But then with Jake Gyllenhaal's character as Mysterio, which Mysterio, to my knowledge, has never really been put into like cinematic Spider-Man universe, and I love Mysterio's character. I think he's such a cool character. But when I first saw him introduced as a hero, I was like, okay, well, they got this all wrong. Mysterio's a villain. Like, what are they doing? And then when they flipped it, I was like, oh, it's on. Like, I'm so here for this movie now. Like, halfway through the movie, I was like, yes, I'm here for this movie. Um,
Yeah, as far as the villains are concerned for the Spider-Man movies, there's only like Venom, there was Doctor Octopus, what else? There was Green
Sandman,
Goblin,
there was Sandman.
yeah, Sandman.
Um, and I think in the Andrew Garfield reboots, which I hated those, they were terrible. I hated those. But
Yeah,
I think
not
they
the
brought
best moments for
Electro in as
Spider-Man too.
well. I think they threw in Electro. Um, and in the animated one, which I loved, I thought that was the best superhero movie of that year. Um,
Wait. Are you talking about the Spider-Verse one?
Into the Spider-Verse, yeah.
Yeah,
I
okay.
loved that movie. Like that movie, I saw that movie twice in the cinema and then like several times after it came out
Like,
online. I thought it was so visually stunning. The music was perfect. The actors were everything was perfect about that movie. And I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man is
we're
like one of
kind
my
of getting
favorite
off
movies.
topic from like Batman to Spider-Man,
We
but
were supposed to be talking about Batman. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The other flaw that I found in Batman, and I'm going to stop talking about flaws from this point because I
okay.
feel like we've talked too much about it. But the other flaw I thought was that they threw too many villains in at once in the second and third movie. They didn't like it works for Heath Ledger's character, Joker being like mysterious and him not having a lot of like character development because that's his whole thing, Agent of Chaos stuff. Like it worked for him, and I think that a lot of that worked in his favor, which I liked. I enjoyed Heath Ledger's Joker a lot. I still think that it was one of the best representations of Joker that we have. Even though it's not true to the comic books, which is an argument I've heard often. And I have a friend and this is a different friend, who's very, very into DC, and he will fight tooth and nail that Jared Leto's Joker is the truest to the comic books. And I have said
What?
several times that that does not make him a good Joker by any measure. He had like 5 minutes of being Joker, 5 minutes, and he fucked it up. Like, we're not here for Jared Leto. We're going to erase him like we did Andrew Garfield. He he
How
sucks
is he
as
the
Joker.
best Joker?
He thinks that Jared Leto's Joker is the best Joker. I'm done with that argument. I am done with that argument. I'm not gonna have it here. I think Heath Ledger's Joker. If we're gonna go off like what is canonical in the DCU, like the cinematic universe, I think Heath Ledger's Joker is the best Joker. Obviously, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is really, really good, but I don't think it's canonical. As far as I know. But his Joker, like they stand, I think those interpretations of Joker being like grungy, like not very privileged, like very, very philosophical, like that kind of Joker I really, really enjoy. And I think it really worked in the second in
Yeah,
the
I
Dark Knight.
agree that basically the letter Joker was really bad. I think as far as my favorite Joker, I'm not sure because there has been so many great
There
portrayals
have
of the
been so
Joker. It's kind of hard to pick one. It's
I
like really,
all
really
I
hard.
can
I would
say,
probably say maybe like the Heath Ledger Joker is my favorite one because I grew up with him. So, but there's like
well,
so
I've
many
seen
good
a lot
ones.
of I've seen a lot of animated Jokers. I've seen the original Joker. I've forgotten the actor's name. Is it Adam
Well, was it
West?
like Jack Nicholson?
I think it is Jack Nicholson. It probably is Jack Nicholson. I actually haven't seen that movie, but I've heard that a lot of people think that he is the best Joker. But from the look of it and from the clips that I've seen, he looks very similar to like the animated Joker, which is just he's just crazy, right? That's just like he's funny, he's a clown, he's crazy. Okay, fair enough. Like that is true to the comic books. I'll give you that. But I really, really enjoy the kind of Joker that's very weirdly, like, even though he has no morals, he's like chaotic good in some set. Like he's very questionable on which side of the fence he's on. Like I really enjoy that kind of Joker. um Even though he's not like in by any measure, he is not, he doesn't fit in with a comic book Joker, because that's the comic book Joker is very much like a gangster. He's like a mob boss.
Yeah,
And he's just
basically
crazy.
what happened for the 1989 Joker is that he's kind of like what you said in the comics. He was like a gangster. He fell into some sort of acid to get like the face and stuff. And
Yeah.
so it's I guess people like the Jack Nicholson Joker because it kind of followed the comic books more.
Yeah, but I think if we talk about Game of Thrones for like half a second, George R. R. Martin said, like, a lot of people ask him like, how do you feel about the show taking a different direction to the books? I'm sure he has a different opinion now, but back when he was asked this question, he said that the show is its own thing and the books are their own thing. That they're both representations of the same story, but they are each their own thing. And I think in terms of cinematic things, I just enjoy the grungy, like anti-hero Joker a lot more than the comic book Joker. That's just my opinion. But to talk about like characters, I feel as though Two-Face, who is a villain that I really, really enjoyed in the comics and and in like the animated series, just wasn't given enough time to be a villain. Like I really
I
wanted
think
him to
what
have,
happened for the second movie was that they
yeah,
tried to establish him as a person for justice, and then he got corrupted after what happened to Rachel, and then he snapped as soon as he saw the Joker, and it seemed as though he was kind of, developed as a person that was, really flawed, and that was pretty cool for the
yeah.
second movie.
And it was really cool. I completely agree with you. But what was disappointing about it was that they spent all this time like developing his character as like this white knight character. He's a force for good. He just wants good in the city. Like I really felt that. I still felt like some of it was lacking, but for the most part, I felt like he was a very, very developed character up until he became Two-Face, where it just felt like he just went off the rail. Like he had like very little moments of self-reflection,
Yeah,
which I
basically,
guess
he's
makes
going off
sense.
his anger about what happened to Rachel, and that's why he's going off and started to kill people because he's still mad at what happened because of
Yeah,
how he perceived the justice to be.
yeah, and that fits. That fits perfectly fine. I just felt as though he was killed off so quickly. I feel like you could have made a whole other movie about him. And
Huh.
I really felt that. Like I felt like Batman and Joker could have been one movie. I feel like that could have been a wholesome like hour and 30
That's
minutes.
a
It didn't
great
have to
idea,
be 2 hours
actually. That's a
long.
really good idea. Like, they should have their own movies.
I think that Two-Face, I feel like they crammed him in those last 30 minutes, dude. Like he wasn't given a shot to be a villain, like really. And I think that could have been such an interesting social comment as well. Like it doesn't matter how good someone can be, that one incident can just flip them. Like it could have been such an interesting movie, and I feel like they really let that character down. Um, and it just wasn't it was really disappointing for me to see that, because I love Two-Face as a villain in the comic books and in the animated series. And then if we move into the third movie, The characters, Bane, I love Bane as a character, by the way. Like in the movie, I thought
You know,
while there
this
were some,
it's kind of funny because when I saw Bane for the first time in this theater when I was watching The Dark Knight Rises, at first I couldn't understand what he was saying. It was not because of the accent, but it was because how muffled he
of the mask.
sound. Yeah, but like as soon as I saw it again for the first time in years, I'm not sure if they actually tweaked the audio or not, but it sounds so much clearer than I remember.
I can't say for sure.
Yeah, like there was
But
like a
I
test.
like
I think like I remember like a while back when it first came out, there was like a test screening and people started to complain about how it was not clear for them too. So it's not just me.
Okay, all right. Well, maybe they did. That would have been
Yeah.
something I complained about as well. Um, I think. Okay, so in the third movie, what I really liked about the third movie was the how established all the characters were. Apart from Anne Hathaway, like I could not get into Anne Hathaway as Catwoman. I just couldn't. I think, ironically, I think she's perfect for the role because she has that like innocent woman look. Um, but because she's been in like a lot of romantic comedies and things like that, I just could not. I wasn't feeling Anne Hathaway as Catwoman. Um, but I did like the setup for the Robin character. I thought that was perfect. I
Yeah,
really
it's really good that they made a setup because that could probably, potentially make more movies or a separate trilogy or films.
I really hope they do because I really liked his character. And I felt like he was a very like I don't know if it came through in his acting or if it was scripted that way, but he felt like a very fleshed out character as opposed to like all the other characters in the universe, which I felt like were really, really
Yeah,
half-baked. Um,
for the Dark Knight Rises, what happened was that he told Bruce Wayne that he was part of like that charity, and then after the charity and after his parents died, he decided to become like an officer, and so it kind of
yeah,
felt like much more fleshed out.
he felt very, I don't know what it was, he just felt very relatable as a character. um and I liked him. I liked him a lot in the movie. I really liked Bane. There was like an air of mystery around him that I enjoyed. I think I didn't really understand what his motives were. Like he seemed to want chaos like the Joker did, but also he wanted to destroy the city, and I was like, okay, well, can you have one and not the other? It just seemed like a lot. He wanted a lot of things at once. But I liked him as a character. I thought he was an interesting character. I liked the spin with the daughter of Ra's al Ghul. I've forgotten her name. But I really liked her. So there were a lot of things, and I liked the character development of Batman as well in the third movie. So in the third movie, there was a lot that I enjoyed. The one thing that I will say is that the motives of Bane and the Ra's al Ghul people, like I didn't really get what they wanted. Like it felt like they wanted one thing and then they wanted the other thing as well.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
also very confused about it because I know that they want to cause destruction and chaos, but like, what would promote
but
this?
like he had this whole speech about giving the city back to the people when really he gave
Yeah.
it back to the prisoners. And then he just wanted to destroy the city. Like I didn't really get what his point was. And then like me not really liking backstories, I also really didn't like the in-depth explanation of the kid climbing out of the prison. Like I didn't really like that. Um, I feel like that could have been a story that people just told and you heard in the background, but it wasn't fully acknowledged. Like I get it. I get why they did that story to explain the backstory of the lady who comes up later. Like I get it, but it just felt very long-winded to me. A lot of the sequences didn't make a lot of sense, like we said with the countries, like him going back and forth from different countries, like that didn't make a lot of
Right.
sense to me. Also, he broke his back and then like healed the next day. Like that didn't make any. Um, yeah, there was a lot of like plot holes, but in general, like I didn't really get why people didn't like the third movie as opposed to like the first. I really feel like maybe it's because it's the first one. It's the first one that people are introduced to, so they're immediately gravitated towards it. Maybe it's that. But because I watched it all in a row, my ranking would be second movie, and I really feel like the second movie was carried by the Joker, by Heath Ledger's Joker. The second movie, but if we're talking about like Christian Bale's performance, the third movie would be on the top, in my
Definitely.
opinion.
Definitely.
I think the third movie really like feel I really enjoyed the third movie as opposed to the other ones.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I actually thought that the third movie was way better than I remember. It was like much more better because I guess maybe because I was biased for The Dark Knight that I
yeah,
actually ranked it lower before, but now I actually see it as a really good movie now. It's kind
yeah,
of interesting. But
yeah.
I think we covered everything for the Dark Knight trilogy. So you said that your favorite ones are The Dark Knight Rises, and then no, sorry, The Dark Knight Rises, and Batman Begins, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. My favorite ones are like let's see, The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises. How would you rate the movies as a whole for the trilogy?
For the trilogy,
Yeah.
I mean, they're not terrible movies. They're not. By any degree, they are not terrible movies. They are solid movies. I would give them about like a 7 out of 10.
I'll say the same thing, a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. I think that's a fair rating. I mean, if we're going off Batman Begins, if I had seen Batman Begins as a kid, I probably would have been like, "Oh my god, that's a 9 out of 10 movie." But watching it as an adult and also watching it in 2019, um Batman Begins would get like a 4 or a 5. Like I just did not get the point of the movie because I already knew who Batman was. But if I didn't know who Batman was, probably would have given it like a 6. Um, the second and third movie individually, the second movie I would have given like an 8 or 9. I thought I really enjoyed the second movie. I loved Heath Ledger as the Joker, and like he's sorely missed from the DC universe.
Okay,
Um,
now before we sign out, of course, I have another movie recommendation I want to tell you.
okay,
I recommend you to see A Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange.
Yes.
Is that the one Johnny Depp is in with the
No,
stripes in his feet?
no. It's a movie that came out in the 70s. It's really controversial. It's like super offensive too, but it's really good movie. Like you might not like it the first time around, but if you see it many times, you'll love it.
Okay, I'll put that in my list.
It's
This will
on
be good
Netflix
actually.
if you
This
have
is a good way
Netflix.
for me. This is a good way for you to make sure that I'm watching movies because I don't. I
Okay, so
genuinely
let's
don't.
see. A Clockwork Orange. I would also recommend Full Metal Jacket.
I've seen Full Metal Jacket, but I've
Yeah, you
forgotten
did.
all of it.
Okay.
I
What
watched it
else
as a
have you
kid.
not seen? I'm trying to think right now. Have you seen
So
2001?
2001, that's a movie?
Yeah, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
No, I haven't seen that.
Okay, put that on your list.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure all the movies I list right now are on Netflix, so you can see those movies on Netflix. And I guess we could talk about them in the future.
That would be great, actually. But my true gap of movie, and honestly, I don't watch a lot of movies even now because a lot of the content that I consume is just from YouTube. I love
Right.
YouTube content. It's garbage content. It's garbage content, but I love it for some reason. It's just watching people in their natural environment, and that fascinates me. But like movies that I've seen this year would be I watched Pet Cemetery, I watched Endgame, I watched all the Marvel movies, but that was against my will. I had to watch them. um, I watched The Dark Knight Rises. I watched The Joker. Um, I think that's more or less all the movies I saw this year. Like in terms of new movies, it's just Endgame, Pet Cemetery, uh, and The Joker.
Oh, there's another movie I have a recommendation for you. It's a really good
Okay,
one too. Look up for 1984.
is it based on the book?
Yep, it is, and it came out in
I've read the book.
1984.
I've read the book. I love that book. That's my favorite classic
Yeah,
book.
look at the movie that came out, and funny enough, 1984.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it
They
came
really
out in
got that.
1984.
I will look it up.
Okay.
But no, Orwell is like one of my favorite writers, so that would be good to watch actually.
Okay, so we got A Clockwork Orange, 1984, and 2001 for you.
Okay,
And I
yeah,
guess
I'll do
we
it.
could probably make this into like a daily series, like at the movies with Tyler and Faye or something.
We could. You know what? We could. You know what? Do you know which movie I really want to watch? And it sounds like a bad idea, but I really want to watch it anyway. is
Okay.
Terminator Dark Fate. I really, really want
Oh,
to
that
watch it.
looks terrible.
It does, but I want to watch it because Terminator, especially the second one, Terminator was one of my favorite movies. Like Judgment Day was one of my favorite movies as a kid. Like I watched that as a kid, even though I wasn't allowed to watch it, and it's still one of my favorite movies. And then I watched the third one, and it's garbage. I watched the fourth one, it's garbage. I skipped out on the fifth one, but because of the fucking because of Sarah Connor, I want to watch Dark Fate. I love Sarah Connor as a character. I think she's one of the most powerful women in fiction. Okay, that's why I want to
Okay.
watch it, and I
Yeah,
really don't want to be
the only good
disappointed.
ones are just the first one and the second one for me. Everything else
The
is
second,
garbage.
listen, the second one is the best one, but the first one and the second one are the best ones. But because I love Sarah Connor so much, I want to watch this movie, and I really want to pray that it's good. I have a feeling it's going to be terrible, but I really want to watch it.
Okay. So that's our little chat about the Dark Knight trilogy. So what's your social media account, Faye?
My social media accounts, so you can find me on YouTube as my username, the Faye the Most Gracious, and you can find me on Twitter, which is my most active platform where I make a lot of trouble. And I am at Angus Spread Thin. You can also find my artwork under the same username on Instagram.
Okay, and I guess for my social media accounts, yeah, I have Facebook, Twitter, what else? Minds.com at Tyler Preston 20, and you can find me there and just there all the time. And I guess stay tuned for our next episode for like at the movie for Tyler and Faye or something in the future. Until next time, guys, take care.
All right.